I've got some things to comment on today. One big pile of video. I'm over here on Zero Hedge. I'm going to give you some of the America First perspective on some of this. We're going to start out by the White House. I don't care. The reason I don't care is not because it's President Trump. If President Biden had done the same thing, I wouldn't have cared then either. Because the principle is the fact that he did not use any government funding to do this reconstruction. I'm going to be honest with you. I think the White House should be rebuilt anyways. I think the whole thing should be torn down and rebuilt because after seeing what it's made out of, that's not very good. I don't want to be put on a watch list, but I can tell you right now that I can build in my garage some stuff that could get through that wall without any problem. Okay, that's not very good at all. And we roll around in National Guard and Upland with stuff that can get through that wall without any problems. That's not what I expected for the White House to be built out of. That's definitely not the construction tier that I would prefer to have my president, much less the president of any political opposition at any point in time. So if my president doesn't have that kind of protection that I would expect him to have from anything, that's not really where I'm at as a person. And the fact that they did it with private money, private funding, is even better. That's Americans investing in an American thing, which is the White House. I don't want to hear Hillary Clinton kvetching about it. I don't care about Hillary Clinton. She's not a person in the political realm. Let me put it this way. You're not running for office. You're not in office. And if you're funding people to run for office, then that's not technically legal, and that's not technically illegal. We can examine that later. Honestly, Hillary Rodham Clinton belongs in prison. She should be in prison for 35,000 emails. 35,000 plus emails. Classified nature. Everybody else that does that goes to prison. Why is Hillary any special? Why is she special? I've looked back. I know her history. I know her family line. Not special. She's not related to anybody important. All those relations come from Bill. On Reddit's army beyond meat squeeze explosives. Reddit is terrible. This is a terrible company. It's always been loaded with communists. And now it's ran by communists. And they had to go public to get funding because the company was dying. They went public and it's still absolutely worthless. Here's another one from Zero Hedge. Yeah, that's our opinion on Reddit. No, thank you. And they're holding this guy hostage, and all he does is he bends a knee. He's on both knees now. He's bent a knee twice to these people. It's twice. Just put it on. There you go. Put that on your head. There you go. Loser. Never kneel to them. You did it twice. Just learn the motion. The motion, okay? You gotta practice this motion. Unzip. As auto loan delinquencies soar, repositions on a track to break record. Yes! That's good. Good. Bad debt needs to be flushed. It's very good. Bad debt needs to be flushed. So the only way to clean the system out is to get rid of bad exposures. The stocks extend momentum. I can't give you any financial advice. I can't comment on the thing because it has to do with China. Again, this is not financial advice. This is economic advice dealing with China. Yeah, the Chinese export ban should have been done a long time ago. A long time ago. And the reason why is because they've been sneaking out classified information to that venture. sneakily hide it on the material that they're exporting out of the country. When they send it out, it goes out, and we don't know how they got it. Well, I do because I paid attention. So definitely with chips, microchips, yeah. No. China does not need to have access to our technology. And I said it a decade ago. We should differentiate from the rest of the world as far as our computer architecture goes. And there's a reason why. The reason why is because the best defense for any system is to differentiate from the other systems so you're not similar. So your architecture, through obscurity, a layer of obscurity, has a blockade. So even if there is any kind of, fomented attack where they do gain access, the difference in computational reply and speed is noticeable. So even if they redirect to somebody else's system, the difference in architectural speed, because the architecture doesn't pair up very well, would differentiate you from others so they could tell that you are not supposed to be on the system, because your stuff would be way slower. Your replies would be slower. All of your timing signatures would be slightly off, askew. And there's no way to prevent it, because especially if you're doing proper rotating code every 24 hours or revolving encryption keys every however many hours, depending on what institution you are, they're either going to be off because their system won't update at the right time, or their reply instantaneous. It won't be instantaneous. Like their ping will be way off, and their reply, because they have to go through a translation layer and then go back to us, will be off. Do you understand? These are methods of obfuscation that will allow you to detect whether someone's doing intrusion. And we used to do that in this country, but we don't do that anymore. I'm not exactly certain why, but we don't do that anymore. And that has to do with economics, because it prevents anybody from front-running you in a market that they shouldn't have access to in the first place. But, like I just heard, 4 major companies own all the beef in the country. Why? Why is this a thing? Why is this allowed? Like, cattle, this is vital infrastructure. We need the beef for the feed everybody. Like, everybody needs the beef. It's like, it's a free market, guy. Like that. Here's the problem. There is no free market in the agriculture. There isn't any. It's completely 100% subsidized by the federal government, the entire industry, top to bottom. It's nothing but subsidies, top to bottom. The whole thing is funded by the federal government at this point. I'm for ending the subsidies, because clearly the subsidies just handed the companies over to China and India and wherever else that they got handed over to. Some Muslim country, Saudi Arabia and China or something like that. I didn't read that whole article, but if it's reducing the entire industry down to a few owners, and these owners aren't in the United States, that is a serious national security risk, because they could just crash the market, close up shop, and starve us to death. This is not good. Like, you understand, this is not good. Like, this is not good in a not good way. Like, this is really, really bad. It used to be, the Bush family, the Prescott family, and Bill Gates were buying everything up. Now it's foreigners, so they bought it all up so they could roll it up into a nice, neat little package and sell it to them. Well, I know some people that should be brought up on sedition charges, but I'm just one person. I don't have a badge because, I'm not special like you. I agree. This is not a filibuster. This is just a Democrats being seditious. Closing the government this long. This is just it affects my life, yes, because I'm a veteran, and I can't stand. I look at everybody else and find out that This is how people feel about veterans, and these are liberty people, like people who you would think are your friends because you're pro First Amendment, you're pro Second Amendment, you're pro Bill of Rights, you're pro Constitution, and these people are just like, oh, we don't care, it doesn't affect us. Screw everyone that it does affect are probably leeches. Is like, it affects veterans. And if you think the VA shouldn't exist, then that's you. Like, yeah, okay. At that point, the conversation just goes from, I guess, when you get sued by your former employees, you just think that you have no viable responsibility because you did nothing wrong, right? You didn't do nothing wrong. Because that's the point you're being, where you don't think that these institutions should have any kind of liability for people whose lives they destroy. And you might be right, you might be wrong. But the simple fact of the matter is that we don't live in libertarian utopia. We live in a constitutional republic, and the laws exist. Our borders exist, and they should be defended by any means necessary, but no, here you are, telling us how much a part of the liberty community you are, just so you can be here. And the conversation's going to go that way because we now have foreigners telling us that exactly. Dang. We now have foreigners telling us what is and is not American. And I'm the last person that wants to get on this train of you're not American, but boy, it says British American. And then I open up your picture. You are the darkest, crispiest, crunchiest looking Brit I have ever seen in my life. Most British people I know are paler than me, and I'm Dutch. Like, my ancestry comes out of Amsterdam. Prior to that, they were in northern Denmark. So I'm as vanilla bean as you can possibly get. And when I see you coming out here and saying you're British American, and I hear this slight Islamicist British accent, and you're speaking out there looking crispy and crunchy like some kind of caramel crunch bar, something I wouldn't even touch, looking like peanut brittle, I have something to say to you, sir. You're peanut brittle, not American. That's racist. That's racist. Yeah, our Constitution used to say free white people. Notice it said free white people, not white people. It said free white people because there were white slaves here. If you go all the way back, the first registered slave was a white person. 1 in 3 slaves was Muslim. I doubt that. I highly doubt that. We can go back and check the history of slavery. Oh, wait, I already made a video on that. It's somewhere. I don't know how to do this fancy video editing on my very incapable laptop. So I have to do everything on my very incapable iPhone 16, which I'm amazed that I have to pay $1,000 for a phone that still can't do basic video editing. I'm not certain why iOS on the phone doesn't have video editing software yet, but I'm waiting patiently for Apple to get around to it. But my point being is that you look like Asian peanut brittle telling black people who their captors were. And if their captors weren't Muslims, Arab Muslims that invaded Africa, as we all know they were before they got sold into slavery, then peanut brittle, man, I'd hate to tell you that we're not responsible because none of us own slaves. The incident of slavery in the United States was less than 1% of the U.S. population. You're barking up the wrong tree. Whereas we know for a fact that slavery still continues in the Arab world. Still continues in the Arab world. And we know it also continues in Asia. How do we know? Well, I was in Asia documenting it. I saw it firsthand when I was still a real person.